Thank you, guys.
For our webinar agenda, we'll be defining the State Housing Trust Fund Commission for the Homeless and give an overview of the Special Voucher Assistance Fund. We'll also talk about the application process, review the award timeline, and also the application and required documents. The mission of the State Housing Trust Fund for the Homeless Commission is to support communities that provide housing and services for individuals and families striving to end their state of homelessness. And the functionalities of the State Housing Trust Fund is in three different buckets. So it's the State Housing Trust Fund Administration, and that is run by our two program coordinators and our director. And we have our initiatives and our programs as well. So that includes our accountability program, our voucher assistance fund, and our Georgia Rehouse program. And we have other programs that are set to be launched this year. We also have our collaborative partnership for federal programs that includes the Balance of State Continuum of Care, our statewide HMIS administration, and also our emergency solutions grants. So we have 4 different initiatives under our strategic initiatives for the State Housing Trust Fund for Homelessness Commission. This includes our ability to provide flexible financing to build more shelters or housing development, pilot more effective tools for housing search, which is our second initiative, and our third initiative, which is what our webinar is about today, which is to promote leasing through deposited fee assistance for our special needs populations. And our initiative 4 is to explore pilot partnerships through the technical college system of Georgia to increase reemployment opportunities. And the overall initiatives, again, is to promote the mission of the State Housing Trust Fund. The Commission has developed and invested in these strategic initiatives. So I'll go ahead and provide an overview of the Special Voucher Assistance Fund. The goal and purpose of the fund is to provide one-time financial assistance to promote leasing through deposit and fee assistance for special needs populations by helping lease up successfully and overcome financial barriers and also maintain housing stability. Funds support non-reoccurring housing-related costs as well. Eligible applicants who can apply to the Special Voucher Assistance Fund are voucher administrating public housing authorities. And this includes HUD special purpose vouchers for stability vouchers, mainstream vouchers, foster to youth independence, family unification program vouchers, and our VASH vouchers, and other HUD special vouchers. Our eligibility requirements, so you must demonstrate a special voucher allocation, as mentioned before, or a commitment to apply for a special program voucher if deposit assistance is a condition of a federal competition award. And you must demonstrate that the voucher allocations are not yet leased and also provide that justification on why funding is needed if there is a leased household, such as a notice to vacant and participant exits, and approval will be provided from the State Housing Trust Fund if lease vouchers are applicable. And you have to have a policy to accept referrals and issue vouchers from the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities of Georgia Housing Voucher Program. However, this is not eligible for special purpose vouchers under this specific funding announcements for our Special Voucher Assistance Fund. Regarding our eligibility requirements, we also want our applicants to provide a summary of internal process for providing non-rent service fees, and this is going to include a 21-day request. So payments to landlords process in no more than 21 days from the request. We will also require participants who are accepted into the assistance fund to provide a quarterly independent review. It's an audit for special voucher allocations and fee usage policy to ensure that leases allow for a recoup of deposit service fees for participants. And we also include a process to recoup deposit service fees from participating landlords. And we also require applicants to provide a procurement summary and contract details on how duties are performed if third parties are involved for services. Our funding availability is up to $500,000 annually, and this includes housing authorities who have such a program that are eligible for additional funding up to $250,000. Funding is available based on the number of special vouchers the Voucher Administrating Public Housing Authority administers, and up to $750,000 for PHAs with qualifying family sufficiency support programs. Assistance per household may not exceed $2,500. I also want to note that we are accepting questions on the chat, and we will answer them at the end of our webinar. We will go through the Q&A as well. For eligible use of funds, you can look into that, and that's also in our job form application on our DCA website. This includes our security deposits, our first month's rent application, our first year's renter's insurance, and others such as pet fees, utility fees, and others on petition based on the State Housing Trust Fund's approval. And this is not applicable for all voucher administrating public housing authorities, but if it is, you have to include applicable administrative costs and documentation, and this is cost for staff time to administer service fees up to 10% of the total award amount. This includes salary expenses, other related contracts, such as third-party agreements for administering service fees, IT costs, and other office expenses. Our ineligible use of funds are rental arrears, utility arrears, legal fees associated with eviction procedures, turnkey service, and other housing support services. Our application is currently on our job form, which is on our website, and you can submit it. And if you have specific questions regarding the application process, we do have an email that we will provide at the end where you can list your questions and ask the State Housing Trust Fund. Our application review and award timeline. So this is on a rolling basis, and applications will be reviewed starting on June 1st. This is a competitive application, and after initial review is completed, applicants will receive a written notice within 7 business days informing them that their application is being recommended to the State Housing Trust Fund Commission for consideration. Proposed award amounts and recommended awardees will also be presented to the commission during scheduled commission meetings for a thorough alternative approval process authorized by the commission. For application review and award timeline, the commission will approve these awards, and it is required before any award can be finalized. The commission may vote in person or virtually as determined by the commission. And these are also the commission meeting dates that we have: June 23rd, September 23rd, December 9th. Once the commission approves, an applicant will receive a formal written notice of award within 3 business days, and an issuance of the special voucher participation agreement is contingent upon the applicant's successful submission approval of all required documentation by DCA and the State Housing Trust Fund. So more about our application overview. We have the housing authority information, voucher information, and we'll include our eligible expenses and everything else that you have to include in the application itself, from required documentation to certifications. Section 1 of the housing authority information. This is basic contact information that's listed on our website and our application. Section 2 is our special assistance fund information, identifying the voucher types as we had spoken of before, and list the number of vouchers, whether they're leased and unleased, and indicate that status, and also provide justification if vouchers are leased. And attaching documentation is also important to justify these funds. So proof of your HUD award for special program vouchers, voucher management system data utilization, or your formal commitment letter to apply for vouchers. For Section 3 of the funding request, we have to include the total amount requested, the estimated households served, the average assistance per household, and the funding justification. So for the funding justification, we do have to describe how the requested amount was determined and how it will support lease-up or housing stability for the special program voucher holders. For Section 4, an applicant must include their eligible expenses as previously stated and also on our NOFA, and you plan to use especially administrative costs as we had previously discussed. For Section 5, this includes our internal controls and service fee process. An applicant must describe a payment processing workflow, the audit documentation, and lease recoupment policies. You must describe the internal process to ensure the landlord payments are processed within 21 days of request, and describe the internal process for special program voucher allocations, including a documentation of fee usage. And you also have to provide a copy of your internal audit process for special voucher allocation. For the lease and recoupment policies, you have to confirm that leases allow for recoupment of deposit service fee and describe the process for this recoupment as well. Section 6, our Georgia Housing Voucher Program referral policy. This is not covered under the Special Voucher Assistance Fund, and I'll go into detail regarding that. But an applicant must indicate whether they maintain a policy to accept referrals and issue vouchers from the GHVP. The policy should explain how funding will be provided for voucher holders when they move and how the landlords should return deposits to the Housing Authority before an RFTA is submitted. Policy to accept referrals and issue vouchers from the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, Georgia Housing Voucher Program. However, the DBHDD GHVP are not eligible for special purpose vouchers under this funding announcement. Section 5 for our Family Self-Sufficiency Program, FSS. This is optional. If this is applicable to you, then an applicant must indicate whether they apply or they operate an FSS program, whether they offer financial counseling services and have active escrow savings accounts, a voucher to home ownership pipeline, and also provide a brief description of the program and provide a copy of program policies and procedures. If this is also applicable to you, you also have to include an agreement with your third-party provider. For Section 8 of the required attachments, we require you to have a supplier change request form, a W-9, and a language access plan. And these documents can be found on the DCA website under downloads and documents. And I did also want to make a note that for the supplier change request form, we do have instructions on how to complete that as well. Continuing on to our required documentation for those who do have administrative costs that they're going to submit. Again, these documents are not required, but only should be uploaded if applicable. This includes our third-party agreement, our administrative cost resume, job description, and third-party contracts. For Section 9 of our certification and assertions, applicants will sign and acknowledge the following. It will execute an official agreement with the State Housing Trust Fund, and it will use funds only for eligible expenses as noted in the NOFA, and agree that no funds will be used for ineligible expenses as outlined in the NOFA. Also submitting a quarterly report and using the required expense request form for all applicants, and acknowledge that all the information provided is true and accurate to the best of your organization's knowledge. And this will also it will execute an official agreement with the State Housing Trust Fund for pending submission and approval of all required documents. And this again is including that quarterly report that we mentioned that will be in an Excel template, and it will be required for all participants. Additional information to note is the State Housing Trust Fund Commission for Homeless is the administrator of the Special Voucher Assistance Fund. This program is subject to funding availability, and the commission reserves the right to amend the program criteria at any time. And the use of funds is subject to all applicable state laws and regulations, as well as to the policies and procedures of the Georgia Department of Community Affairs and the State Housing Trust Fund Commission for the Homeless. And if you have any additional questions regarding the notice of funding availability, those inquiries can be sent to the State Housing Trust Fund at dca.ga.gov email, and all application documents can be found under the Documents and Download section of the Special Voucher Assistance Fund page on the DCA website. And just to note that applications will be accepting on a rolling basis, as previously mentioned, until all funds have been exhausted. And $2.3 million have been approved by the Trust Fund Commission for this Special Voucher Assistance Fund. And now we will take questions. So if you have any questions, please put them on the chat or raise your hand, and we're happy to respond. Do we have anybody who have any questions? Okay. All right, well, if we don't have any questions, then there is the email address where you can submit any questions that you may have. Thank you again for your patience in starting this webinar and also for joining us. And we're happy to stay on for a minute or two if you have additional questions.
Elizabeth, you do have some questions in the chat. So the first question is, where can I get a copy of the recording? I got on the call late. Valora, we will be putting that on the State Housing Trust Fund webpage for the Special Voucher Assistance Fund. So that recording should go up within the next couple of days. Elizabeth, you do have another question. So will each agency be responsible for one application for their organization or for each individual person?
Yes, so we will, our voucher administrating public housing authorities will be applying to this. They are our eligible applicants, and we will give our awardees proper documentation on how to track for our eligible applicants. And Ashley, feel free to add anything I might have missed.
Yeah, so I think just to clarify and say it one more time in a different way, it's one application per housing authority. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
Correct.
I have another question in here. It is, what is the requirement in relation to DBHDD and GHVP?
So if you have a policy that is under that, then you have to submit proper documentation. But for the voucher, the special voucher, that is not applicable for this specific special voucher assistance fund. Ashley, do we have any other questions on the chat? I'm not able to see those.
There's someone typing, so I'm trying to see if there's going to be a question for you. Give me 1 second. Okay, you have another question. For the foster to youth independence portion, do they have to receive DBHDD services and be connected to the local housing authority to receive this grant? So, Jarrell, anyone that receives funding under this assistance fund has to be receiving a special voucher from that voucher administrating housing authority that received the funding under this grant.
Thank you, Ashley.
So they would go to their local, just to kind of explain it a little bit better. So those that are receiving, say for instance, a housing authority, voucher administrating housing authority gets the dollars, that individual will need to go to that housing authority that received this funding to apply to receive funding under this if they have one of these special vouchers.
Thank you, Ashley. And I was just asking from the point of all of the state agencies kind of working together, because I know that sometimes you may have a child that is aging out of foster care, but they don't necessarily meet the qualifications for DBHDD services, and trying to relate them to the housing authority to be able to hopefully receive these can sometimes be a struggle. So that was what I was asking, but thank you, Ashley. You did answer my question.
And, and JT, if I could jump in there, yeah, I think that we are, acutely aware of that, working with the Division of Family and Child Services on that. And we're actually, if anybody on the call is going to the Housing Authority Conference next week, DCA is going to have a conversation on those foster youth to independence vouchers. Not the trust fund, right, but the Housing Choice Voucher team. There's federal dollars available, additional voucher assistance available, and if we want to have a conversation with likely the folks on this call and other housing authorities about how we could do a better job of securing those resources for young adults who don't have other options after foster care.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, the same also goes for our veteran community. I know I'm not sure if anyone is here from the VA hospital, but um, on the state side, I have gotten multiple different numbers on if there are vouchers actually available, especially in the metro Atlanta area. And so I'm just trying to figure out how they're going to coordinate all of this. My brain is just running 1,000, trying to like, okay, how can we all work together?
I think there's another question in the chat.
Are the funds only for new admissions? So yes, the funds are so we will have different, and Ashley, you can speak to this as well. Sandra, can you clarify your question regarding new admissions?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Most of our special use vouchers are leased up. So, and I was just trying to understand how I could fit in, how we could apply for people, as they go off the program, or, I didn't know if it would fit in with what we're doing, because we have a small program, and they're mostly 100% or 90% leased up.
Okay, thank you for your question. Ashley, could you speak on this?
So yes, Sandra. So what this is for those kind of initial fees for someone to move in into housing. So kind of those application fees, those rental deposits that they may have, their utility fees, as someone is moving into or has gotten a lease and needs that initial kind of move in costs. So that's kind of what this funding is geared towards. Erin, Sandra, I hope that answers your question. If not, then we can talk a little bit more about it.
Yes, it does. It's just, we don't have the movement. I'm just trying to make sense. Is this something I want to apply for? But there is a need when I have a vacancy. So I'm just trying to understand, should I apply and have the funds available, or are you looking for people who have more turnover?
So also it can be for someone who is moving, so moving to a new unit. That the funds are available for those people as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Elizabeth, you have another question in the chat from Aaron Langley.
I believe Ashley had answered that one from Aaron. Can it be used to pay deposits if a voucher holder moves to a new unit?
Yes, Aaron, those fees can be used to do so.
Thank you, Eric and Ashley.
Elizabeth, I don't see any more questions in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. There's someone typing. One second. Yes, we can put the link to the website in the chat. Give me 1 second, and I'll drop it in for you all. Sandra, you had come off your mute. I wanted to acknowledge you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I was going to type it with my voice. Question: we have people porting into our agency. Our portable vouchers are probably larger than our, but okay, that I just answered it myself. They're not special. If they're not the special use, that wouldn't fit, correct?
They have to be those special vouchers that are listed in the NOFA. That is correct.
Any other questions? And Ashley had put the website link. That way you guys can have access to the notice of funding availability. All right, well, great. If you have any other additional questions, please send a message to our State Housing Trust Fund at dca.ga.gov email, and we're happy to provide more guidance. Thank you.